Kayce's Yellowstone spinoff will reveal the future of the Duttons' next generation. Kayce Dutton will lead an upcoming Yellowstone spinoff, revealing the fate of the Dutton family. Yellowstone's ending saw the rivalry between Beth and Jamie Dutton finally come to an end, following John Dutton's death. The Yellowstone Ranch was sold to Thomas Rainwater to be preserved for generations to come, sending the remaining members of the Dutton family on separate paths. Beth and Rip will have their own sequel spin-off series on Paramount+, with Kayce Dutton's spin-off, I, Marshals, airing on CBS as a procedural western. Hopefully, it will continue to explore the broader franchise story. Taylor Sheridan, the creator and writer behind the vast majority of Yellowstone and its spin-offs, is developing multiple sequels and another prequel following the end of Yellowstone in 1923. These include the Beth/Rip series, a series centered around the 6666 Ranch in Texas, 1944, and the Madison, the last of which is the furthest along in development. That means 4 TV shows set in the present day, following the sale of the Dutton Ranch, though Kayce's spin-off will be the closest to home, given that his house was a part of the original land. One of the most fascinating scenes in Yellowstone Season 5, Part 2, saw Kayce Dutton speak to Tate about the ranch's future. Kayce offered to fight for the ranch if his son wanted it, explaining that he had no personal ambition, pride, or desire to hold that land. In a moment of profound maturity demonstrated by Tate, the teenage boy explained that he shared his father's temperament and had no wish to fulfill the family legacy, spending his life fighting tooth and nail to protect the valley. Tate suffered through multiple kidnappings and was a witness to several violent events during the course of Yellowstone's run. He's experienced more than any child should, and this will undoubtedly affect how he develops into a young man during the new sequel series. Fatherhood will have to remain a prominent piece of Kayce's life, and this is the most fascinating element of the show, as it ties to the central themes of Sheridan's franchise, exploring how the American dream the Duttons once sought has been passed down through generations. On the Dutton family tree, at least beginning with 1883's James Dutton, Tate is a 6th-generation member of his family. From James Spencer to John Tibb to John Aye, the Dutton legacy has been a crucial factor in the lives of the family patriarchs. Each man was brought up with the sole purpose of defending that land, hoping to protect that dream. Kevin Costner's John Dutton Aye claimed he protected the ranch to preserve the natural landflow, but it was also evidently attached to his personal pride, and he was willing to commit acts of evil to maintain power. The Duttons have been raised to demonstrate outward strength, and while Kayce is undoubtedly strong, he is so in a more reserved, kind-natured sense. Tate takes after his father, making him the first male in the Dutton line to be raised away from the cycle that brought many of his ancestors and countless others to untimely deaths. In terms of the broader scope of what the Yellowstone franchise is all about, it's on Tate's shoulders to redefine what it means to be a Dutton in the modern era. The Dutton men have been defined by strength for multiple generations, and while Tate can continue to preserve his family's legacy, he can do so in a more modern way. Rather than being bullheaded or violent, Tate can demonstrate what it means to be strong and respected through other means. If his childhood has taught him anything, it's that the way the Duttons have lived for generations of Yellowstone shows has led to almost nothing but pain and suffering. Paramount has confirmed what fans have long speculated. Kayce Dutton will helm the next chapter of the Yellowstone saga. As the dust settles on the final season of the flagship series, a new spin-off, tentatively titled Dutton's Legacy, is set to pick up the torch, focusing not just on Kayce, but the future of the Dutton family and the children who may one day inherit the Yellowstone Ranch. But in Taylor Sheridan fashion, the path forward will be anything but smooth. Kayce Dutton, portrayed with brooding intensity by Luke Grimes, has always been the reluctant heir. Torn between duty to his father, John Dutton, and his desire to protect his wife Monica and their son Tate from the Dutton family curse, Kayce's journey has been marked by tragedy, internal conflict, and a painful sense of responsibility. But now, with John gone, or at least out of the picture, the ranch's fate rests squarely on Kayce's shoulders. The new spinoff, rumored to be set several years after the events of Yellowstone, will open with a changed Montana. Climate, politics, and development have only intensified the pressures on the state's landowners. The ranch is not only under siege by developers and powerful politicians, but also threatened from within by questions of succession. While Kayce may wear the brand, he now faces a new frontier: how to raise the next generation of Duttons without repeating the mistakes of the past. Tate, now a teenager, will be central to the story. The trauma of his kidnapping, the loss of his baby brother, and the weight of his family's name have matured him beyond his years. But unlike his father, Tate may not be content living in the shadow of legacy. He's curious about the world beyond Montana, and Dutton's legacy will explore his inner war between freedom and obligation. The ranch calls to him, but so does the chance to build his own life. Also stepping into the narrative will be young characters connected to the extended Dutton family, perhaps a child Jamie never knew he fathered, or one of Beth and Rip's strays from the bunkhouse, who's been raised with tough love and Dutton grit. There's even potential for flash-forwards that show glimpses of what the ranch might become decades from now. Will it remain a sprawling, untouched slice of paradise, or become a battleground between siblings and cousins with competing visions? One of the biggest questions surrounding Dutton's legacy is the direction Kayce himself will take. In Yellowstone, a pivotal moment saw him experience a spiritual vision in the wilderness. He stood at a metaphysical crossroads and claimed he saw the end of us. What that meant remains ambiguous, but the new series may finally unpack that cryptic moment. Was he foreseeing the end of the Dutton dynasty, or a rebirth through sacrifice? Kayce's role in the spinoff will not be as a tyrant or patriarch in the mold of John Dutton. Instead, he'll be portrayed as a transitional figure, a bridge between the old way of running the ranch and the uncertain future it faces. He's trying to raise his son in a world that no longer rewards silence or violence, yet survival still requires both. He'll be forced to confront his own demons, including what kind of father he wants to be, and whether the Yellowstone brand can be a symbol of something nobler than power. Meanwhile, Monica Long Dutton will have a bigger voice in this series. Her identity as a Native American woman raising a son between two worlds will become even more prominent as she advocates for a future where Tate understands both his heritage and his birthright. Her presence will bring needed perspective on the land, not just as a commodity, but as sacred ground that must be protected. Her relationship with Kayce will be tested in new, more mature ways, far beyond the cycles of grief and forgiveness we've seen. The series will also dive deeper into the Bunkhouse 2.0, where Rip Wheeler, if he's still alive, may serve as a grizzled mentor to a younger crew. Without John or Beth pulling the strings, the rules of the ranch will evolve. Loyalties will be challenged, especially as outside threats loom larger and tempt those who may not be as committed to the Dutton legacy as Kayce. Expect guest appearances and flashbacks from familiar faces. Beth, even in a limited role, could drop in like a force of nature, still wielding her cutting wit. A ghostly memory of John might haunt Kayce's decisions. Even Jamie, if he survives the end of Yellowstone, could reappear with schemes or redemption arcs of his own. Stylistically, Dutton's legacy will retain the cinematic beauty of its predecessor, with sweeping shots of the Montana landscape and a haunting score. But tonally, the show is poised to being more introspective. It's less about maintaining empire and more about redefining it. What does legacy mean when the old rules no longer apply? What does it mean to love the land but reject the violence that protected it?